welcome back. Hope you're having a good day. I am just going to do a little spring cleaning on a couple of small microcarpas. And they just aren't really big or complicated enough to warrant their own video or anything. This one, I actually at one point had it as a clump of 5. And then the other pieces of it slowly died off. I was left with 2. Again, it was just a fusion project of mine, failed one. In the clump of 2, I had repotted it, left them together. They weren't really fused all that well, but they were both seemingly still alive. And then as I was trying to transition it into the sun, I noticed, one part looked good, one part didn't, and I'd kind of transitioned it back and forth. And then all of a sudden I realized that this part had life, the other part was just really declining and declining quickly. So I kind of did a little bit of an emergency repot to get the rotted piece away from this one. You can see now this one's doing fine. I'm usually not a big fan. I think that defoliation is overused, but you can see here, like even right here, that's how many sets of leaves this branch has on it. And some of these I'm just gonna defoliate, take out some branches that are in some bad spots, and then just let it go for a little while longer and probably get a little wire on there maybe later in the summer. And since I am doing this as a spring cleaning type of a thing, I'm not even going to defoliate all the way out to the tip. This one here, you can see I left 3 leaves at the end. Just want to be able to see and get in, take out, like I said, some of the unwanted branching. Alright, and then that leaves us with, got this branch coming out of the big chop scar there, and coming out here. I'd like to leave that as a lateral branch, if you will. And then got all this coming out of the apex. And I've been thinking about, this branch is very close to that chop scar. This one there's a thicker branch coming off the edge of the chop scar, kind of leading out to this longer one, and then this one comes up and has 2 sub branches coming off of it. I could use either this or this as the apex. I don't really want to use both of them. I think I'm going to go ahead and see. Let's see if we can get a good look at that. That basically just took the rotten part out of the chop scar there. Didn't really get into any of the live tissue at all. We go right around the edges. And I'm thinking I'm going to go with the smaller branch closer to the chop scar to try to again give that some extra healing. This one's a lot closer and it's heading over on top of it. And so I don't really want any more energy going into this other one here. And again, some of these branches are still very thin. They'll stay flexible for a long time. I didn't defoliate this one as much as the others. I figure that'll leave lots of energy coming up out of that chop scar there. Was a couple of these smaller ones on this branch that are kind of interfering with these, but I think I can fix that with wire one day. I may eliminate, half of them, but I'm gonna leave them all on there for now. All right, then we got this guy. This is actually my only successful fusing project with thicker microcarpa cuttings. You'll see some of my plants are actually they're fused clumps together, but most of them were I bought them that way. They were that way, like neglected in a nursery and everything. Like I didn't do that on purpose. So that's some of my like really big ones are that way. But started working there without really showing you guys everything first. It is 3. This one here is pretty good size, maybe a little bit thicker than my thumb. And then we've got this one here, probably a little bigger than one of my fingers. And then there's this one where the stump is probably the size of one of my fingers. But then the live part coming off of it is only about as big as my pinky. There is a dead piece, little dead chunk right there. I tried to pull a little bit of it out when I repotted it the last time, but then you start disturbing how these are fusing together a little bit. I did have wire tied on this. I'll find the old video and put the link of it in the description, where I actually had these tied together, and it was the first time I repotted it into this pot, probably about a year ago or something like that. But anyhow, just gonna get in here and do the same thing I just did. And then the last thing I do want to talk about before I do start working, sometimes I find if I work and talk at the same time, I babble on too much. But this one isn't in the greatest spot as far as like looking at it and everything, but it is right next to that little rotted piece there, so that's why I am leaving this on, hoping that if I get a bunch of momentum build up in there, a bunch of roots and kind of like live material will kind of overwhelm whatever might rot in there, and life will overcome death, if you will, there in a way. I have completely let this tree go since the repot, so there are a lot more little twigs in here than that other one I was just with. Of course, it's been a while since I touched that tree too. Of course, each one is just gonna do its own thing. Kind of hate to take, this is coming off that smaller one, coming off the bigger stump I was just talking about, but it is just coming right up through the rest of the tree in a bad spot. And I really don't have much of a need to get any further with the defoliation here. I'm going to take out some of the really older ones. Alright, and then there's this little guy here. I had to let it get so leggy because it just about up and died on me a couple times. It was a hurricane survivor, but I did notice that one of the things that the hurricane did to some of these trees that were not affected is that it blew all of the small particles out of the soil and just kind of left it barren. But then at the same time, got a little bit of moss growing around there. Sometimes I wonder if some of those spores were blown in, because I never had any moss at all in any of my trees before that hurricane came through, and now it seems like I've got it on quite a few. I'm gonna take that out too. Some of these trees I've been leaving that in, but I don't think I want those mold spores in this one. Probably could, I didn't know it was going to be that deep. Probably could have set up for a little bit of a better shot there, but just took the tweezers and pulled some of that stuff out. This one, again, like I've had to let it go for a while, does have big scar there. Ficus isn't exactly known for deadwood, but I was trying to make a Euro or something out of that at one point. And I do believe that that is part of what has affected the health of the tree before. Is that's just a big boon for the tree to have. So I think I've been looking at it, and I'm just going to take out this little twiggy growth there. Probably see some of these bigger nubs I've been leaving on there. I think with tropicals it's a lot easier to leave nubs on and just take them off later rather than taking them all off at the time that you're actually pruning the tree the first time. And since these already have pretty exposed limbs and they're a little longer and a bit more established than those other two trees were, I'm going to just get a couple pieces of wire on there. These two thicker limbs I'll wire together, and then these two smaller ones I'll wire together. Just get a little bit of movement. All right, got some pretty good movement in there. And the last one I'm going to do today is this one. Pretty incredible. First thing I am actually going to do is I'm going to trim those off. Pretty incredible that is. This is actually, I can tell that this has to have been in this pot for at least 4 years, as it is still in just pure organic like potting mix that I used to use at first when I took cuttings and things like that. I have 2 Cascade pots. One of them is really something special. I'd like to, I have found that Cascades are not that easy to do. You definitely got to get a good strong, couple strong branches for it. And this tree has struggled a little with its health because of the way I tried to make it a Cascade and everything. But it is not, you know, super thick, but very interesting. As a matter of fact, I'm just going to start taking out some of this growth. There's a chop scar here from where it was like an original cutting of some sort. So I'm going to leave that growth out there. When I thought about putting it in with this video, I actually almost decided to go ahead and just do a major repot and everything, but I think I'd like to train the Cascade out a little more because I do want to put it in that Cascade pot. See, this one kind of goes down, this branch goes down pretty low with a couple sub branches off of it. This one, no taper at all, but it does have now, and these, you know, this is fresh growth right now. You can see it's all green. So this is now 3 branches. So I'm actually not going to touch anything that I'm going to keep. The branches I want to keep as healthy as possible. You can see I've already removed quite a bit. That's that really big scar I was talking about, so I do want to leave this twig here. Definitely want to take out all the undergrowth. Boy, I held that at a weird angle when I did that. See if I can leave that growth there just for keep sap flowing that way, and then make the also make the turn down eventually a lot more believable. So I'll let the rest of this all still develop. This growth I'm going to leave here to try to heal this scar, and I hope to maybe keep that as perhaps a main apex in a semi-cascade, I guess you call that, or a cascade. I'm not really sure. I get all that kind of stuff mixed up. And then have the two cascading branches here. This also had a root that went forever. It's one of the reasons I haven't worked it in a while. I was hoping it would kind of grow back there a little bit. I thought it was pretty interesting, but turned out that dried up. And then that's dieback there. This whole thing's dead.